All right, in the previous video we were talking about the process, and I got about halfway through it before I accidentally cut off with my hand going boom like this on the record mechanism. So this is part 2 of Where You Go. We had just got to the idea of you asking your tutor for advice, your boss as well, about the draft, the brouillon of your intended research instrument, your questionnaire or your semi-structured interview questions, whatever it happens to be. Fine. Well, at some point you will get the information back, and clearly you will need to write that up. And I have talked to you on another video about that, about data presentation, analysis, and evaluation. Clearly, if you have any concerns about this, how do you organize it? How do you structure it? What would be best? Talk to your tutor again. Send them a note. They're not going to read another long chapter. Ask them some questions that are bugging you. Do you think it would be better this way or that way? Do you think I should divide it into 8 bits, or would 4 be better? Whatever it is, ask those questions. But we're not there to proofread all the time. We're there to help. Fine. So then you get to the end. You've taken our advice. You've done your data presentation. You've done your analysis and evaluation. You've made your conclusions and recommendations. Now what you do? Well, I did do a file about that, talking about things like your appendices and all sorts of stuff. Fine, you should deal with those. What do I mean by that? Well, once you've got the whole thing finished, the appendices are done, you've checked your citation and attribution and your bibliography, all of that, what then? Well, the first thing is reread your introduction, because it's not unknown for people to start off going like this and to veer off. The Americans call that mission drift. If you have, you need to do something about it. You have 2 choices, basically. Either you try to pull it back to where your introduction said you were going, which is going to be an awful lot of work, or you rewrite a little bit of the aims and objectives in the introduction to explain that this is what you did do. Might not have been quite what you intended at first, but that's what you delivered. What we don't want to find is a title and an introduction which is vastly different from the content that you actually provide. So please be careful about that if you would. Go through the handbook, check you've complied. Have you written to the right length? Have you used the right referencing scheme? Have you used the right space between lines? Have you printed on 1 page or recto verso? Are you in line with what they say in the handbook? Double check that you are. Issues like length, if you run over, tend to get penalized. So please, please, please be aware of what's in your handbook and double check yourself against it. Proofreading. Proof fait preuve. So I would suggest that you read it à haute voix. You read it out loud, not just with your eyes on the screen, but so you can hear it all bouncing off the walls. Because when you read out loud, you have to follow your own punctuation. If you're falling over sentences and phrases and it doesn't sound right, then your punctuation is shot. Go back and correct it. Also, use Grammarly. I've recommended this again and again and again. If you set Grammarly up to work in the language in which you're writing, it will check your work for spelling. It will check it for expressions. It will suggest where you have gone wrong, and it will even explain to you why you've gone wrong and suggest the correction that you need to make. Listen to Grammarly. If you're us, and after 6 months of work and us trying to help you, you throw something together, and when I get it, I open it in Word, and I've got Grammarly working, and there's a whole load of stuff underlined in blue, I'm thinking, why couldn't you be bothered to have done that yourself? I am not your proofreader. The tool was there for you to use, you didn't use it. The other good thing about Grammarly is, in fact, it also has a plagiarism check built into it. So you can use Grammarly before you drop a copy of your rapport de stage or memoir onto UHA's Compilatio plagiarism check-in service. You can actually use Grammarly to check whether you have missed, whether you have failed to give the source for something that you're using, a quotation or a paraphrase. So don't just take it straight to the university, dump it on Compilatio, and find out that you've got 10, 12, 14% of plagiarism, because we will already have rejected it, and you will find yourself in considerable difficulty. So use Grammarly, check the level of plagiarism that it's saying. I'm not saying it's perfect. It probably won't be as good as Compilatio, which we have to pay for, but nevertheless, it will give you an idea as to whether you have been missing things, and you need to double check your citation, quotations and paraphrases, and your attribution, your giving of the sources. I would also suggest in proofing that you give your work to someone in your family, mum or dad, who might know nothing at all about the context in which you are working, but they know how to understand things. They know when things make sense or they don't, even if they don't understand everything about the context. If they're looking at and say, that just doesn't work with that, that doesn't scan, that doesn't link to this, what does this table mean? You don't explain it. Then you've learnt an awful lot from an innocent look at your work. So please get someone else to read it, not just to check whether your spelling is correct or your expression. Your English is possibly going to be better than most other people's you could ask. But to ask them honestly if there's anything you don't understand, if anything isn't obvious, if the logic of what I'm saying just doesn't hold together, please, please, please tell me what you think. That would help enormously. So that's important, proofreading. Well, at some point you have to think about submitting this thing. We have deadlines. You will have a deadline, which is basically normally, unless your handbook says otherwise, normally a full 10 working days before your soutenance, your viva, your viva voce. Why? Well, because you probably need to post the hard copy. It needs to get into the university, out of the university, home to us, to give us time to read it alongside other ones as well, to think about the questions and prepare ourselves for your soutenance. You have to factor in that time. In fairness to everybody else, if they are on time and you are late, there is a statutory penalty usually built into your livret or handbook telling you how much you will lose for every day of lateness. So I would strongly recommend to you, even if you've got a problem with binding it and you're going to have to send the hard copy a day late, at least send the digital copy to prove to your tutors it was complete. Even if you had a problem in the bindery and in the printing, etc., it was complete and there was an electronic version submitted by the deadline. Ideally, we want everything by the deadline, the digital copy and the hard copy. But please, above all, hit the deadline with whatever you've got. At least that gives you some defense. Finally, remember when you're sending it that, at least at the moment on MICAI, the MICAI Masters Program, you have to go to our MICAI Moodle Drive and look for Compilatio and put a copy of your work on Compilatio, and it will read it and it will tell you and your tutors whether you have been significantly plagiarizing. And on plagiarism, we are getting more and more and more tough. So please, please, please make sure that you do check that you are not plagiarizing, that you have recorded, cited, attributed all of your sources. It really is important. People who have failed their rapport de stage, have failed their placement, have failed their M2, have therefore failed their masters because of plagiarism. So please be very, very careful about that. Sorry to end on a warning, but there it is. Once you've got that out of the way, you then have some time to think about what you do for your soutenance. Perhaps more about that later, but for the moment, that's the end of these series of videos on Introduction to Research. All the very best of luck with it, but it won't be luck, because you earn your marks here. You work. It's not us giving you a nasty topic. It's you choosing. It's you choosing your topic. And when you give us your aims and objectives, you give us a set of criteria to measure your performance by. Does he, does she deliver this and this and this and this and this? That is the acid test of a rapport de stage. Okay, so all the very best of luck, as I've said, but it won't be luck. It'll be hard work, and when you get your mark, you'll be proud of it. Okay, thank you very much, guys. I'll do one more video for you, which will be about the assignment I'm going to set. Okay, bye.